other?
No, I think.
Okay, just each other.
We'll do this little intro and we're just gonna vibe it.
Yeah,
It'll
I
probably
think.
be more like just a conversation between you and I.
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
I can just start on this whenever.
You may start whenever.
Okay. Hello, I'm Sarah Burt, founder of Burt Management Studios, a local digital marketing and brand consulting agency in Des Moines. We specialize in web development, online communication, and social marketing for our local clients. A big part of our approach is purpose-driven, values-driven work, both in how we connect with our team and grow with our partners, and also how we engage with clients, whether they're longtime collaborators or those we hope to work with in the future. The mission of this interview series is to connect with local leaders, discover their unique communication styles, explore their leadership insights, and gain key takeaways on their digital and social marketing strategies, among lots of other things. Ultimately, it's about uplifting these amazing local businesses and individuals making waves right here in Des Moines. Today, I'm excited to sit down with Julia Franklin, the Executive Director of Mainframe Studios, to talk about her leadership journey, the impact of her work on our community, and whatever else we find fun to chat about today. So thank you, Julia, for giving time to us and lending us your energy on this beautiful business hour workday.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yes, well, we'll jump right into it. So you're Executive Director at Mainframe Studios.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit more about your background, where you've been, and what kind of led you to Mainframe.
So my journey is unusual, like most. Even in college, I was a pre-med major, and I didn't find art until I was a junior in college. And I took an art class, and I absolutely loved it because I found out that art has infinite right possibilities on how you solve a design problem, where the science world was somewhat black and white on right and wrong answers. So from there, I switched my whole trajectory of my life, much to my family's chagrin, but I did kind of move into working for the Dallas Museum of Art and community engagement after grad school at TCU, and then I got a teaching job down at Graceland University in Lamoni, Iowa, where I taught sculpture, ceramics, art history, first-year studies, and was there for 19 years before making the leap from that professorship into kind of the art world here in Des Moines. So I managed the Anderson Gallery at Drake. I also managed the grant program at Bravo Greater Des Moines for operating grants to support over 90 arts and culture nonprofits in the area before I made the leap here to Mainframe. But all of those experiences got me to where I am now.
Yeah, absolutely. What drew you, do you think, to the nonprofit world?
I think what I've realized is that I like to support others. So if that's teaching and mentoring, if it's even in the grant world, helping find support beyond just dollars to help organizations thrive. That same thing for artists, right? Artists need different things. They're motivated by different reasons on why they make and create art. And can I be that connector and that collaborator to help them be successful? So it's always in support of others.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's a big key kind of, bundle of a nonprofit professional is you're not only leading an organization or assisting with marketing efforts, a lot of times you're teaching the people that you're benefacting operations, like how to run their business, how to file grants on their behalf, how to run their own business. And I mean, the list goes on there. It's all encompassing.
It is.
From coaching to mentoring to leading. So good on you. You're doing the good work.
Thank you.
As we know, leadership is often about navigating challenges and opportunities. How would you describe your approach to leadership, either in this role or past roles, and then how has it evolved over time?
I think adaptability and flexibility is key. What I love about this job at Mainframe is that it is never a dull, boring day. And I never have the same day twice, ever, because we're managing a 5-story building in downtown Des Moines, 200 artists, and then community folks who we're working with. So we don't know what to anticipate, and I think that's it. We always start the week of, here's what we think is going to happen and what we're going to work on, and then we get to Friday, and that is not usually what we ended up doing, because we had to kind of pivot and adapt very quickly given what was happening
Yeah.
each day. And I think that's it. It's just like, okay, this is the new priority.
Yeah.
This is still on the horizon.
Yeah.
You just have to know what you can drop and what you can push back and what is critical, what you're staying up half the night to complete because it's dependent on other things. And I think it's just that everyday reprioritizing.
Yeah, I have found in my own world and my newness of leading my small team is when you're really strict with the vision, but then flexible with how you get there, right? Jeff Bezos had a quote that was not verbatim, something just like that, but it's always stuck with me. Just know where you're headed, but be nimble and be okay with failing many, many times on the way. As long as you know where you're headed, you're in good shape.
Exactly.
One of the most critical aspects of leadership is communicating effectively with different audiences. How have you refined your communication style over the years? And then what tips might you have for fostering strong connections with your team and the community?
Well, I think my communications over the years have become much more authentic. And that I admit when I don't have the answer. I don't know. It's okay to not know. And it's okay to say, I need more time to research this or get in touch with someone who is the expert in this area. And I think if people see that you're not a big ego walking into the room, that you don't have all the answers, you're much more relatable. Everyone is kind of flying by the seat of their pants as well. No one else has it all figured out. That's what I love, working with all kinds of others in the communities. We're doing the best we can. No one has it all figured out. And that if you're willing to learn and grow, it's going to be a great experience. And so I think that's it. Everything is a teachable moment, as long as you learn from it and then can figure out what that lesson will teach you to some other new challenge or new opportunity. So that's my communication thing. And I think even we have a small team of 3 here at Mainframe, and it's that idea, the same thing. I don't always know the answer, or guess what? I screw up all the time, and I'm going to tell my team, guess what? I messed up today. here's where I fibbed it and flubbed it, and I think it helps them say, I need some help here. I'm going to flub this, or oh, this didn't go out correctly. It wasn't interpreted well, and it's okay. There's nothing here that we can't fix, and it will be okay.
I can't support this with any data, but I almost wonder if, being able to admit when you're wrong, when you've made a mistake, lends to more growth for not only you, but everyone around you who's now learned from that mistake. And sometimes they've, literally made that mistake a week ago, and they're like, oh, wait, I've got you. Those so simplistic, yet so profound human connections we have either professionally or personally are what I look for more of in my adult life and in my professional life. People who will hold me accountable, but also be like, hey, it's okay. We've all fallen. You just keep moving.
Yes.
I think this is great, and I think that you've exhibited incredible leadership skills, and you're doing great things for Mainframe. I want to move in a little bit to some of your thoughts on kind of art in general in the community, whether relative to Mainframe or not. How do you envision the role of art spaces like Mainframe evolving over the next 10 years? And do you think there are ways the local art community could become more integrated with other sectors like tech or education, maybe even policy?
Yes. Well, we're a nonprofit, so we won't get into the policy stuff for that. But I think there's still, nonprofits have to advocate for themselves, and I think there is a lot that could be done to help nonprofit work be a little bit easier in this community. But when I look around, Des Moines is a really unexpected gem when you think about the art that you see every day. So that's work from the Public Art Foundation, from others like the Iowa Arts Council or Bravo Greater Des Moines is actually funding art and making it happen within our community and providing some incentives for businesses to kind of help integrate that into the work that they do. Even the cities are prioritizing that. So when you go on a bike ride, when you go to a park, you are encountering art along the way. And I love that they're working with local artists to do that, whether they're artists who have a studio at Mainframe or just artists in the community. But we look around, even out the window, it's still a pretty gray concrete
Yeah.
kind of view. There's so many ways that we can activate spaces, not just with murals, but I think with other ways where we're encountering art every day and we realize that it has this power to kind of help and heal and make a vibrant community.
Absolutely. I mean, it goes without saying, like having a well-curated and clean home is a great way to start your day. Having a well-curated office, doing the same for your children. I mean, I've seen that when I can keep my kids, with their own art on their walls, but with a clean space that allows them to kind of nurture their own imagination. Well, why can't we kind of copy paste that same ideology into our urban development and beyond? Right. I love it.
Well, and I'm excited about getting, like you said, to work with other sectors and other industries. And I think so many people operate in silos and operate in isolation, and that's not building strength in the community. I'm really working on creating a web of connections, even to rural communities. I think there's ways to uplift what's happening there and showcase that in Des Moines, and even showcase Des Moines in some of those communities.
Absolutely.
So building some exchanges there, but definitely technology. I think there's ways to work with that. I remember Corteva had reached out my first week saying, hey, we would love some of our scientists to work with artists, and I'm thinking that would be fantastic. So what happens when science and art meet? You've got the scientific method. It's very much like the design process. We just use different words, but the process is still essentially the same. So there's a lot of ways that Mainframe can connect with others in the community, and we're working on it. We're working on developing those partnerships so that we're really elevating each other's missions, and that it's not just a one-off, that we're not just checking a box and working with someone one time, that it is an ongoing relationship.
As you're saying this, I'm painting a picture in my head of a world where architects and doctors and artists and scientists and developers and you name it, engineers are all kind of working collaboratively on projects like this, and they're not, like you said, they're not their own little sectors, but instead they're part of one whole.
Right.
Hopefully that's the future we're evolving toward, but it takes real committed people with that vision to initiate that bridge. I love it. Des Moines has been a growing cultural hub, as we've mentioned. What are some creative collaborations or partnerships you think could push the boundaries of what art can accomplish in the city? For instance, how the art community could help address broader social or environmental issues.
We just were having a conversation yesterday about that there does seem to be a cultural shift in the type of art that people are seeing. And it's not just art that's pretty anymore. It is about art, about what might have been considered taboo subjects or controversial subjects. And it's the idea that art is the conversation starter. It is a place where there's curiosity, where you can say, I don't understand why the artist has chosen to do this. I want to learn more. What is this piece saying? What is it communicating? Because sometimes art might be the first time someone is really connected with a feeling that they have, and that they finally feel seen, and they are connecting with someone who might have experienced something similar. So I feel like it is super interesting, especially when we get to the social, emotional components of art, that art really is healing, it is helpful, it's not meant to harm. And if people are coming away with that idea of feeling hurt or harmed by art, it's like, we'll stop and ask why. Kind of move into that curiosity phase to figure out what it's touching on. And I think once people start asking questions, they find that so much of art is layered to kind of that just first view of it. And then as we stop and think about all the ways it can be interpreted, it could lead to some really good conversations, and those conversations can build relationships.
Wow. I love the idea of art being a way to therapize people too, and being a big part of a healing process, a wellness process. As trendy as wellness has become, people doing the real work on childhood trauma and the way that those, I kind of imagine the layers of healing that come up in a lot of psychoanalytical treatments.
Right.
I wonder if art might have a similar, or at least a place in a therapy like that.
Absolutely.
I love that so much. This is a controversial question.
Okay, all right.
Just knowing, Burt Management and myself, I'm really just obsessed with all things digital. We love a good AI tool. So I wanted to ask Julia, with the rise of digital art, NFTs, AI tools, how do you see the intersection of technology and art shaping the local community, and are there opportunities you're excited about or wary of in that space?
Well, I think NFTs in the art community are really a non-issue, a non-starter. It's something that didn't ever take off. It hasn't panned out for artists, and so I think it was just a fleeting thing.
Yeah.
I would say AI is going to be here for a while, and it's like, how do artists embrace that? And then how do we make sure folks don't rely on it too much? I think about AI and the use of photography. It's wild. Like, photographers are not going to be adding extra fingers to
Right.
to things, and I think it's not quite there yet. But there is something about having your photo taken by another human, and that's the human interaction and connection. I'm worried about that. That getting lost along the way. And I think that's why NFTs didn't really take off. Like, people actually like tangible things. They like to see art and touch art, and not have it be a hidden kind of secret possession. And so I think that was really interesting. But I know artists in the building are already using AI to help them develop content for what they're putting out in social media, because they want to make the art. They don't want to sit and wordsmith and come up with this when they can tell AI in a matter of commands what they're needing for a social media plan. And I don't want that to let go of creators and things like that, but I think there's ways to help make your work more efficient.
100%.
More efficient. We all don't want to be sitting behind computers and writing, grant applications or lengthy communications when AI can help us streamline those things.
100%. I'm, a big believer that if your foundation is full of integrity in your own creative process, using AI as a creative crutch likely is not going to be an issue. And if it is an issue, maybe we should question you as an artist, period. Period, right?
Right.
I do see AI being really valuable, especially just for the sales of the art, the e-commerce, the website building, the communications with customers, and furthermore, those artists that do like to compile research before they start a project, I see AI really just allowing people to have more time on the art.
And that's how I've used it as well. It's a research tool. I love Copilot because it cites sources, legit sources, and you're like, oh, this gives me a place to then go, so I can do some further research and hone in on something. But it is about making your job more efficient. And I think it's kind of interesting with the growth of AI. I'm like, oh, but we're starting to see a resurgence of very traditional art practices, like black and white film photography. We have artists building darkrooms in their studios because those don't really exist anywhere else. And it's becoming this really interesting thing. I think about letterpress printing that's been around for hundreds of years, and it still is a unique, interesting thing because it's different than what's being generated out right now.
The contemporary renaissance.
The arts will survive.
Okay, good.
Traditional things will still survive. Yes.
Thank you. That was a great answer. Let's see. What do you think are the most innovative or effective ways to support emerging artists in today's fast-paced, digitally driven world? And how do you think local art spaces can better attract and nurture young talent? That's a two-parter. Let's start with best ways to support emerging artists in the digitally driven world.
Well, I think it's one, Mainframe is lucky. We are privileged. We have an amazing space. We have 4 galleries. If you're a tenant here, you have walls on the outside and inside of your studio to showcase work. And so I think it's our job to kind of use that space and uplift other artists in the community. So I think first and foremost is how can we create a way in, a pathway for artists to showcase their work, because it is trying to get people to see your work. And they can share it online, but when you see it face to face when you get a chance to meet that artist in person, you're creating that relationship, that tie to the art that is important. So that's something we're thinking about with even our first Fridays and how we start to invite others from outside of Mainframe into the building to showcase their work, and also make connections with other nonprofits whose work might be in a similar vein. So thinking about it that way, but I try to go to every show I can. So not just what's happening at Mainframe, I have to get out of here, and I've got to go to shows. I go to places across the state and see what artists are doing, and it's just showing up for each other and encouraging artists. Sharing your art publicly is hard. People are very critical, especially online, and I think artists just need to know that they have support, that people believe in them, and that they should continue making. And so that's what I know I can provide to those emerging artists, is that we've got space, and if nothing else, I can be that connector. If things aren't a good fit here, who else do I know? Where else do I know, and how can I share that? And again, just help mentor those artists.
I love that you emphasize, like, well, yes, of course, you have to show up digitally, but I love your take on, like, the call to action, if you will, of the digital communication is to get them in person. All of the output is to just get them in person, which I think will lend to, of course, more human connection, which is probably what we're all lacking at the end of the day, and increasingly lacking. Let's see here. Let's talk a little bit about inclusivity. Inclusivity is often a priority in modern creative spaces. What strategies do you think could help make the local art community more accessible and welcoming to underrepresented artists and communities? We'll start there.
Yeah, well, I think Mainframe was onto something when they opened the building with really just one floor in 2017, and they created First Friday. So the first Friday of each month, we throw a party for really 2,000 people or more, and invite the public in to tour art studios and to see new art being made. Internally, we have themes, so each First Friday is different. So it's the same but different every First Friday, right? You're going to see maybe some of the same artists in their studios, but the work on the walls will change and it will be different. And I like that we have these themes, because that is our way. I think about September, it was focused on fashion, and people came dressed up, right? It was fun and funky and weird and just creative and so beautiful. So just even the people coming in, not even participating in a fashion show, but it was one of our most diverse events, and we tend to draw a community crowd because we are free and open to the public. But I think this is the place where you can be who you are, and you're celebrated for that. And I loved seeing that on Friday. It was the reminder of what programming can be when you are asking people to come in and visit, but creating a place where they feel welcome to wear that outfit that would maybe, get eyebrows raised in other places, but it's like you belong here. And it's like, how do we continue to make it feel like people are welcome? And that's all about, I think, being inclusive.
I'm obsessed with everything about that. How good would it feel to just walk out the door and have that feeling every day, anywhere you go?
Right.
What could Des Moines do to foster a truly diverse and inclusive arts ecosystem? Like Des Moines as a whole.
Des Moines as a whole, one, interestingly, we are the only state that doesn't have particular foundations or ways to get grants for individual artists beyond the Iowa Arts Council, which is state and federally funded. So those funds come to artists in that way. But to receive a grant, you have to already have a certain level of professionalism. And so it's very hard for emerging artists to get any funding, because you've got to have a solid artist statement and a resume, which means you have to have had experience and you have to have shows. And so we need to have this ability to take risks, to see someone who might have talent, who may not have that resume, who may not have all of the pieces of paper that really validate a career, and say, I'm going to bet on you, right? Like, I want to see what you're going to do with this money. And to create less hoops to jump through, right? All the things that are required if you get those dollars. And I
Yeah.
think having a fund, having a foundation where artists can get grants, that would be huge. Even if it's grants to fund the purchase of new equipment. How do you grow if you can't afford that new equipment? What if you're young and you don't have a solid credit score? You can't go and get a loan to do that. And so business is kind of stifled, and innovation and creativity are stifled because of some of the systems that are already in place. So
Yeah.
I would love people to just support artists, right?
Yeah.
And like, what would it be like to have an arts patron, to have someone say, here's some money. You don't have to worry about
Yeah.
how you're going to pay for food this month. This money kind of helps you do that, and it helps support your art practice.
I really love the way you use the word risk in that, because I find myself in conversations with people who maybe are high earners, or they're big decision makers in whatever capacity they find themselves in, and I think that there can be a lack of interest in kind of uplifting the underdog because of the lack of experience, because there's no lived experience, because there's no data, and therefore, is there any risk? Is it riskier?
Right.
But I love the quote, if you treat a man as he is, he'll stay as he is. If you treat a man as he can be, he will become as he can be.
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to that. You can't let people's limitations and your perspective of their limitation, your underdeveloped perspective of the limitation, keep you from even just getting you out of their way half the time too, right? I think that we see a lot of corporations and the capitalistic nature of most of our industries do keep people from that. So that feels like I could go on forever.
But more risk. I mean, whether it's giving artists money to make work, it could be providing space. There's so many empty office spaces in downtown. Someone's still paying utilities on that. Put a couple artists in there, see how they transform it. It will be something. It will be an attraction. And people just need to get out of the way and how things have always been done, and be open to trying some new things.
I love that so much. Newness is goodness. Art has long been a vehicle for social commentary and change. How do you see local artists in Des Moines making an impact on important social issues? And are there particular movements or themes that you think will shape the future of art in our community?
I think there's incredible work being done in our community. I think of two artists, Amanda Tate and Jill Wells, who are both tenants here, but they are focused on addressing accessibility in the arts in very different ways. And Jill is such an advocate for artists who are living with disabilities, who are living with blindness, and how do you make art for someone who can't see it? And so really moving into tactile things that people can touch and experience, along with interpretations and explanations of the art that's there. And that art is for everyone. And I think these women are making insane headway in that, to the fact that they're invited to national and international conferences, that they are game changers in this community, and they're using art to do it for that. So I'm excited, but there are also other things that people are talking about. We just had a contemporary photography exhibition in August for our first Friday, and art was up all month. And there was art by some ISU students that was phenomenal. That was really telling what it's like to be a Black man in America, or what it's like to be a trans person right now, and really helping art see things from new perspectives. Like, artists are offering us that lens to get into this world that many may not be in, and to start asking questions, what might that be like, and to really kind of tell a story in a very visual way.
Absolutely, the storytelling is the big piece there.
Sarah, can I pause you guys for just a second? I need to switch memory card slots.